have actually no...
Sorry, continue. I forgot to press the record button. Thank you for Ludja for reminding me of that. Okay, carry on, Mother. Now we're recording. Hare Krishna.
Have actually no faith in these words. And even though others may have faith in scriptures like Bhagavad Gita, they do not believe in or worship the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Such persons cannot have any standing in Krishna consciousness. They fall down. Out of all the above mentioned persons, those who have no faith and are always doubtful make no progress at all. Men without faith in God and his revealed word find no good in this world, nor in the next. For them, there is no happiness whatsoever. One should therefore follow these principles of revealed scriptures with faith and thereby be raised to the platform of knowledge. Only this knowledge will help one become promoted to the transcendental platform of spiritual understanding. In other words, doubtful persons have no status whatsoever in spiritual emancipation. One should therefore follow in the footsteps of great acharyas who are in the disciplic succession and thereby attain success. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you. So yesterday we were speaking about text 39, speaking about someone who has faith in the Bhagavad Gita, you could say in essence, has faith in the Vedic scriptures, has faith in the spiritual master. But now we're hearing the results of someone who does not have faith. So, excuse me one thing. I just mute while I'm blowing my nose. Excuse me. Yeah, so I took a few notes on this, but any specific comments or questions here? Now, speaking about three categories actually here of persons. So the persons are, let's just go back in the purple. Here, Prabhupada, as he often does, well, not often, but he does, he says persons, he compares those who do not have any knowledge, or actually those who do not have faith in the real scriptures. He compares them to almost like animals. And I had to look at the commentary by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Baladev Vijayabhushana, our great acharyas. And it's Prabhupada's purple is more or less based on the purple by Baladev Vijayabhushana, who explains the same. Those who doubt revealed scriptures, then are compared to be almost like animals. Yeah. So Prabhupada's purple kind of more or less it kind of follows on from Baladev Vijayabhushana. Yeah. So three types of person: the ignorant persons here, compared more or less like animals, and the faithless. And we spoke about faith yesterday, so automatically we spoke about lack of faith and someone who actually doubts. Yeah. And here the doubting soul is especially criticized. For the doubting soul, there's neither happiness, neither in this world, nor in the next. Yeah. So what's they do they doubt, as we mentioned, the words of the spiritual master, or they doubt in the existence of the soul? Yeah, they doubt three things here. Also, other commentaries, they doubt the spiritual master is actually giving them the absolute truth. Yeah, so that's why one of the requirements for accepting the spiritual master is that you should accept him with faith, that he is giving you the absolute truth. And so one should not accept or take initiation until one has faith in the spiritual master. Doubts in the Vedic scripture, also doubts in the superiority of Vaishnavism. that's mentioned as well by one commentary, and also doubts in the reality of the deity's presence, So and there's another verse also in the 9th chapter, which is similar to this. Shadas dana purusha dharmasmasurantaba arapyapninavadande michusamsada vatmani. So in there in the 9th chapter, it describes that those who have doubts, they return to the cycle of birth and death. Anyway, any comments or questions on this?
Yeah,
Yes, yes.
I was just wondering, like Arjuna, when he's talking to Krishna, he said, "Oh, this is my doubt, O Madhusudana, and I want you to clear it up for me."
Yeah, so Arjuna. Yeah, so Arjuna has.
So, had he already taken shelter of Krishna as a spiritual master then, when he asked that?
Which did you know the verse you're quoting from?
No, I'm trying to look it up.
Yeah, but I think it's a theme throughout the Bhagavad Gita. Interesting you bring up the point, because Arjuna brings various doubts to Krishna. Krishna is explaining to him the science of bhakti, or the science of bhakti, the science through the whole, why he should do his duty and fight. And Krishna is explaining from many different perspectives, from the perspective of karma, from the perspective of Gyan. And Arjuna has asked different questions which may indicate his doubts, but he's following the process, or he's following, in other words, then he actually surrenders to Krishna, and he has faith in Krishna, that Krishna can allay his doubts. So he has that faith in the Lord in order to surrender unto him. That now I'm a soul surrendered unto you. You please instruct me.
Yeah, 2.7 he says. So then he can ask the doubts. That what you're saying, Prabhu?
Yeah. Which verse is it?
Okay. 2.7.
Yeah.
639.
Yeah, well, it's in more than one place.
No, he started with 2.7, I think.
Okay.
Yes. Karpanya dosha.
Yeah. Yeah, so and it also brings up a point, Marvel, a good point you're bringing up, is that we also should ask questions, as we mentioned yesterday. We may have doubts about different aspects of the philosophy that's been presented in Srimad Bhagavatam. But that's what the spiritual master is there for, is to allay our doubts. That's what Krishna's teachings are there for. So you could say, so Arjuna is not someone who doubts Krishna. He has faith that and he surrenders unto him. So we should have that same mood as when we approach the spiritual master. Please, someone speaking there.
Prabhu, what I understood with this word doubt in this context.
Carry on.
The word doubt in this context, to me, I think it means doubting to find out mistakes. It's not doubting. Having doubts in mind, having questions in mind is fine, but doubting in the
Yeah, I understand.
aiming to find mistakes is what it means in this verse.
Yeah, I think you're speaking of someone who's a skeptic. So he doubts the knowledge that he is receiving. One is
skeptic. Skeptic to prove it, in order to prove it wrong or something like that.
Yeah.
Intentionally prove it wrong. That is what is like doubting.
Yeah. And what is Krishna? What's the mood of approaching a spiritual master? One famous verse. Tatvidi panipatena paripashena sheva upadiskanti gyanam gyanas tatvadashanaha. That we described, that we already covered that verse. Yeah. One should, just in chapter 4, one should inquire from the spiritual master submissively. And that submission should be manifest in service to the spiritual master. Yeah, like the other day, sometimes it happens, sometimes in our class in the morning, some persons are there and they don't know, they think or in a class in the temple, this is the etiquette, is where you shouldn't be in a challenging mood. So unfortunately, there was someone who was challenging the speaker quite intensely, you know, kind of in a skeptical way. Yeah. So did it answer the question, or is that a comment, Dhananjay? Thank you for that.
Yes.
I was just
Challenging
trying
is
to
the right
work
word.
out, like, yeah, but I see that the doubts, they're talking about doubts of people who have no faith in God here in this verse, sorry. And like Arjuna just had specific doubts about duty, which is completely different doubt.
That's a good point. That's well identified. Yeah. And that's
Yeah.
meant, yeah. So, yeah, Arjuna had, he was doubting about, his specific, he was doubting his duty. What should he do? Yeah, thank you for that. Yes. No,
Isn't Arjun doubting or asking all these questions on our behalf in a way? Because
He is, yes, very much.
yes, he himself is surrendered to Krishna.
Yeah.
But all these things that he's asking is for our benefit.
Yeah, very much. Yeah, we're the ones who are having doubts.
Mm.
Yeah, so Arjuna's asking on our behalf. Yeah, but it's something I think we mentioned yesterday as well. There is, like, for instance, if someone wasn't in the mood of Arjuna, then no matter what Krishna said, they just wouldn't accept it.
Yeah.
Well, they'd be skeptical. So that's what's saying. That's what the verse I quoted from the 9th chapter as well. Shadadanan Purusha Damusmasya Parantapa. That for such a person, they will continue in a cycle of birth and death. They're just skeptical about everything. They're doubtful about everything, and for no particular reason. Yeah. No particular logical. They may see like a logic in their doubt, but when you describe the science of the Vedic scriptures and their authoritative nature, well, you may try to explain to such persons and they will even doubt that. Yeah. So that's why if you can have a discussion with someone, it depends on the individual. If you want to take the discussion in a certain direction, at least you should have some praman, some source of truth by which you both accept. Like if you both accept the Vedas, then you can discuss Vedic aphorisms, you can discuss the Vedic scriptures and the different commentaries upon it. But if one party doesn't even believe in scripture, then there's no point, the discussion's not going to get very far because they don't even believe. So then you have to come from another angle. You have to kind of give, say, for instance, if you want to explain the existence of the soul, rather than saying Bhagavad Gita, it says Dehinos min yatha dehe kumaram yovaram, just accept. They don't even believe in Bhagavad Gita. They actually don't even believe in Krishna. So you got to explain it from another. And Krishna gives ways you can explain it to such persons in the Bhagavad Gita. Yeah, just as this body's changing, we're seeing this body change, although we are the observers of the change. So you can give different, you're going to give a different type, you're going to try and explain it in a different way. Do you understand that? Yeah.
Yeah, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Can I say something?
Please, yes. Go ahead.
So I have seen a lot of people who reads Bhagavad Gita, but they believe that it's a it's not a religious book, but they believe that it's a philosophical book. It's more like they so they don't have any faith, I mean, in Krishna, but they believe, they accept the book as a philosophical aspect. So so what do you think these person, those kind of person, they also will, we can put them in this doubtful person, or
Yeah, actually,
they have,
Krishna, Prabhupada in the purple, he says exactly what you just explained.
There
There's and some, even though they have knowledge of or can cite passages from the revealed scriptures, have actually no faith in these words. And even though others may have faith in scriptures like Bhagavad Gita, they do not believe in the worship of the personality of Godhead. Such persons, Prabhupada continues, cannot have any standing in actual Krishna consciousness. Yeah. And this was, there's in the, I think in the second chapter, third chapter we was reading specifically, this Prabhupada has lots to say about, there is even such persons in that category who you could say dare write commentaries on Bhagavad Gita, but they do not believe in the divinity of.
yeah.
So that's why Prabhupada has gone to pain to actually write the Bhagavad Gita. Someone needs to mute that.
And
That's why
also,
he's gone to pains to write the Bhagavad Gita as it is. So just in answer to your questions, as Prabhupada says, such persons will, it said here, will have no standing. They will not get the real fruit or benefit of the Bhagavad Gita. They have no standing in Krishna consciousness. They look at it from an academic point of view, or they
yes,
see it as just an encyclopedia of different yoga systems. So in essence, you could say that's Prabhupada's gift to us. He's actually explaining the Gita as it is, or explaining as Arjuna, as a devotee, is understanding it from Krishna, which leads to surrender to and devotion to Krishna. But
and also they don't believe that it's a book which is spoken by Krishna, and which while he is giving advice to Arjuna, they thought that it's just a story, and it's and some human wrote it, and they also interpret the verses in their own way, and they knows the slokas, but they don't have any faith in Krishna.
yes. So so let's just ask devotees here. So what do you do if you come across such persons? How would you preach to them, or how would you speak to them? They doubt. They recite verses of Bhagavad Gita.
You give them prasadam. First step.
Give them prasadam.
Yeah.
No hope.
To say to the person, read Bhagavad Gita as it is. You may not be reading as it is. That's why you are like this. Read and see.
And yeah, but actually, I had to kind of argue with one person, and not argue, but I was just trying to explain. But that person said Bhagavad Gita as it is not. It's for only Gaurava Vaishnavas. Actually, Prabhu, I don't have much knowledge, so I can't preach to anyone. But still, I have belief in Krishna. That's what I have only.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get knowledge so that I can and at least make them understand.
Yeah.
But
One approach that you can have with such persons is to highlight the effect of the Bhagavad Gita as it is in comparison to other interpretations of the Gita, where Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is has actually made thousands upon thousands, if not, we could say millions of people throughout the earth devote themselves to virtue and devote themselves to Krishna, and has actually transformed their lives. which they can all give their own testimonies to by following. So perhaps you might encourage them to, perhaps, why don't you hear from such persons whose lives have actually been transformed by following these teachings in the Bhagavad Gita. And that might be one angle. It's quite, actually, practically speaking, no other Bhagavad Gita hardly has inspired one person to take to bhakti. Only Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, as it is, as far as I know, has actually done that. So that depends on the person. If they're willing to hear something from you, you might kind of explain it in that way.
Actually, I thought of adding, Prabhu, other Bhagavad Gita's has made a lot of Mayavadis, basically.
You said Bhagavad Gita's made a lot of, you mean the...
My other Bhagavad Gitas, because they have their whimsical commentaries, they have their opinions, they have, this is how I think. So it lands to making...
Yeah, there is... Yeah, that's correct as well, because also Shankaracharya did a commentary on Bhagavad Gita, and he's widely accepted in India. He's kind of the Acharya of the Mayavad school. So a lot of them will have faith in him rather than faith in the Vaishnavism, So at some point, this is, what can you do? You have to choose your battles, If someone is completely skeptic and someone has completely no faith and they're stubbornly attached to their own views, then there's not much point wasting time. As Mother Gaia said, give them a samosa. That's been offered to.
At the end, actually, Prabhu, I said that, are you a Krishna Prasaditarian? Because, if a person be it vegetarian or non-vegetarian, both are having some what is it called? Karmic reactions.
Yeah.
I mean, is that the word? Yeah, but only Krishna Prasad can give you that intelligence to understand this transcendental knowledge. That's what I said. But he got offended. But I don't know how to say, but I leave it up to them. Because I know Krishna
Sometimes,
is...
I guess you're speaking of in India, pious persons who are familiar with Prashadam, but often in the West, then best not even to tell him it's Prashadam. But
and the thing is, if you,
go on. I was just thinking,
if somebody you know, then it's good to show them by your example. In Bhagavad Gita, it tells you how a person should behave or do. Just show by behaving, using those kind of things, what you like, act in that way. And they'll say, oh, well, I'm telling him something, I'm telling her something, but nothing's affecting her. Show by example. Sometimes you have to show by examples.
Preach by example. There's another, yes, thank you, Mother Chana, a very important point. Preach by example. There was, what's the other word for that? That's been hypocritical, preaching one thing but acting in another way. There's another way that we can impress the divinity or impress the importance of Bhagavad Gita on persons who have doubts, and that's to invite them into the sangha of devotees, to invite them in, depend on who you're preaching to, if they got enough faith to come into a temple and environment and engage in Sankirtan, to be in the midst of a kirtan of devotees chanting the holy name. That can have really dramatic effects on someone. It's very powerful. Bring them into a kirtan where the devotees are chanting the holy name, or invite them to a festival. Invite them to a festival. These are as well, which they may be very much impressed with. I need to.
Prabhu, I'd like to add one point.
Yeah, I just need to mute. Okay, go on.
Can I add a point on the food? If you say it's special food, they'll think it's drugged,
There's
or
lots
something.
Yeah, let's just hear from Mother Gaia first, and then we hear from Dhananjaya. And everyone else, if you can mute your microphones, it sounds like...
Yeah, what I was saying, if you say the food is special and it's making you intelligent, they'll think it's drugged, so better not go that way. Might repulse them completely.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for that warning.
Yes,
Bhagavad.
yes, yeah, actually, but
Okay,
my mom,
let's
my mom
call.
also
Go
said
on.
that when I came. Actually, she is a bit not quite, religious, uh, but very successful in material life. But she said, I, only believe in your hard work, but this don't go into these things. But she always said that, I heard that Ishkan, Ishkan people, they, they having the drug. I said, mommy, they don't have drug. They have they are high because they're so much in devotion. That's why it seems like they're in drug, but they are having the most happiest, living their happiest life.
I'm
And she said,
surprised. I'm surprised that is still there. I know in India that came from one film that was made when we was first preaching in India. What's it called? Dharam.
yeah,
Dharam. One famous film in India where
there is a song. Yes,
devotees are depicted as being hippies. Oh God,
Devan song.
let's go. Please, devotees, if you're not speaking, if you can mute your microphones. Hare Krishna.
Prabhu,
Yeah,
can I please ask what was the verse you were mentioning, 9th chapter?
yeah. Let's just
Which-
go 9th chapter. I think it's 9th chapter, verse 3. Let me check. Go there right now. It comes after Raja Vijay Rajagoyam Pavitam
Okay.
Idam Uttamam Patyakshavargamam Damyam Susukukatamavayam, which happens to be the largest purport in the Bhagavad Gita. Yeah,
Yeah.
chapter 9, text 3. Those who are not faithful in this devotional service cannot attain me or conquer enemies.
Yeah.
They return to the path of birth and death in the material world. And Prabhupada speaks a long purport about the faithless. But that might be a bit of a sidetrack. We go there. Okay, so chapter 9, text 3.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay. Any other comments here or questions or discussion points? Otherwise, we can, if you like, go on to text 41. But here, let me just check my notes. I took some notes here. Yeah, just the word
I was thinking,
Ashwadana.
Oh, I'd like to add.
Cool. Dhananjaya. We call him Dhananjaya. You come.
Yeah.
I think you're
So,
traveling, isn't it? You're on a bus or something.
yeah,
Difficult to hear you
my
clearly.
voice. Okay, is it better now?
That's better.
Okay, so um, just to add on to what Payal Mata was asking about, there was one sentence that she said that only Krishna Prasad can take you out of something like that. She said. So using word only should be used wisely. I mean, you also need to know who you're speaking to. If it is your family, then if you use only, they won't be offended, or they would take it very, very understanding way. But if you speak with someone who is uh, not much aware of how devotional life works, so if you tell them that only Krishna Prasad can do this, they might have a completely different idea, and that is why they might get disappointed sometimes.
Yeah.
Uh, so it is important to know the state of that person and to come to their level and then analyze what kind of explanation will they be able to absorb.
Yeah, of course.
So,
Yeah, we have to be aware of
so
who
in
front
that
of us.
way, yeah,
But that comes so that comes with experience as well. Comes with experience how
yes,
to best to relate Krishna consciousness for different types of people. So what I do, I'm just going to read a little part of the purport from Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur. You need to mute now, Dhananjaya Prabhu, because we. So Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur differentiates between the faithless and the doubters. he explains that Krishna has mentioned 3 classes of people who are foul. And we mentioned those. There's the ignorant, the agna, the faithless, ashadadadhana, and the doubters, shamshayatmanaha. The agna is foolish. So the ignorant person is foolish like an animal. The ashadadhana has knowledge of Shastra, but having seen the mutual disagreements of proponents of various theories, he has no trust in any of them. So he becomes skeptical, yeah? Although the Shamshatma has faith, he is swayed by the doubt. I don't know whether this process will be effective in my case. And then Burijan continues, doubters have some faith, yeah, but they nevertheless doubt that following Shastra will truly award results. Thus they follow, but without full faith, hope, and optimism. Such doubters achieve happiness neither in this world nor the next. Even fools attain some material happiness. Doubters attain none. Krishna next reveals how to destroy doubts. And actually in the commentary, I'm thinking for the next verse, which is relevant here, that such persons, if they associate with devotees, then they can overcome their doubt if they somehow have enough faith to at least associate with devotees. All right. So let's edge on to text 41. Any final
Prabhu,
comment on
I
that?
wanted to
Yes.
share one more reflection.
Please.
So on the same note where Payal Mata was mentioning that she was telling someone that Krishna is the supreme personality, and that person was saying, no, I don't believe this, or whatever. So it is, I just forgot the point. Sorry, Prabhu.
Yeah, it's okay. But yeah, we should be careful what we say to people who have doubts. We shouldn't say things that which will encourage them to have more doubts. So for some people, that might not be something that you're going to say to them. Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, because they may just start to blaspheme, and that won't be good for them. So again, it depends on the person. Then you might want to start a conversation about rather than the divinity or the existence of Krishna, you start the conversation along the lines of, do you believe you have a soul? And you can have that type of discussion with such person. You might make some
Sorry,
ground.
Prabhu. I now remember what I wanted to say.
Okay, go on.
So when you, so whenever we make any comment like that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead,
Yes.
instead of just declaring that, when the person is answering back that no, how can you say that? You can explain why you believe Krishna. If you don't have an explanation for that, I mean, it should be a discussion, and you must explain why do you believe that. And
Yeah.
it is not necessary that both of you have to come on an agreement. That should be noted. Otherwise, it turns into an argument.
Yeah.
It is not necessary that you have to come to an agreement. You have your beliefs, that person has a different belief, and that's completely fine. And you are just discussing what are your beliefs are. Why do you believe that Krishna is Godhead? You must know that. You must be clear what you believe in. And yeah, you can maybe share your beliefs if that is helpful for that person to understand it further, and then maybe if he is also able to sync up with that belief system, he will be able to change.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's fine. He's on his own way of elevating himself. So that
Yes. So
was the thing that
sharing your personal testimony, but just on perhaps the last point, then we're going to the next verse. But again, you have to be careful. Some people will laugh at your personal testimony.
Yeah.
They will see. Yeah, so many people believe so many things. So many people. There's some people who believe that there's fairies at the bottom of the garden, and that and some people believe in Santa Claus. So you have to be, yeah. So I guess we're speaking about the great art of sharing Krishna consciousness in this atheistic and materialistic world. So all of you have your own experience, and so it's good we're sharing some things that will work for some people, and some people it won't, you know, because we're speaking about persons who have doubts. So, and we want to share Krishna consciousness. So it's good. I hope we've learned some tips here.
Prabhu, but the last
Yes.
line of this purport is explaining what we should be doing.
Well, that's what we should be doing because we've got faith. Yes.
Yeah, but even for a faithless person, okay, why not you try? Here it's saying, because it's talking about teachers. We always go follow the teachers, so we are just following the teachers. So it's a simple. You can, even in material life, okay, our teacher says that, yes, we follow.
Yeah, that's a good point. You could bring it up to some people, just like in a classroom, you accept what the teacher says. So I think in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada explains that for persons who may not be Krishna conscious or have faith in Krishna, at least while you're reading Bhagavad Gita, accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then you might enter into the mysteries of the understanding of Bhagavad Gita, at least theoretically. While you're reading, accept that God's speaking here, then you might be able to enter into the mystery. Yeah.
Yes.
There's another point came to mind, but just Okay, let's go to text 41, and I saw Mother Sahachari, she had her hand up. Like to. So okay, everyone, nice discussion there. Some tips for preaching and some experiences we've had in sharing Krishna consciousness. Let's see what Krishna. Closing 2 verses, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Text 41. Yoga sanyasta karmanam gnana sanchinna samsayam atmavantam na karmani nibadhadanti dhananjaya. One who acts in devotional service, renouncing the fruits of his actions, and whose doubts have been destroyed by transcendental knowledge, is situated factually in the self. Thus, he is not bound by the reactions of work, O conqueror of riches. Purport. One who follows the instructions of Bhagavad Gita as it is, imparted by the Lord, the personality of Godhead himself, becomes free from all doubts by the grace of transcendental knowledge. He, as a part and parcel of the Lord in full Krishna consciousness, is already established in self-knowledge. As such, he is undoubtedly above bondage to action.
Okay, so short purport there. Any immediate questions or comments, please feel free to share. So here, what Krishna says here, one who acts in devotional service, renouncing the fruits of his actions. So what's a word for that we have described before? What type of yoga? What type of
Nishkam karma
karma yoga? Correct. Yes. Thank you, Dhananjay. Yeah. So yoga here. Let's go back to the verse. Previous verse. Yoga star called karmani. Yeah. So one is one who has renounced the nishkam karma yoga, unattached to the fruits of their action, to the fruits of their activities, and they're acting out of a sense of duty. Yep. And there's a note here, one who has offered all actions to Krishna has actually renounced all actions. Because remember we read those verses where describing again earlier on in the 4th chapter, it describes how work, what is action and what is non-action. Yeah, remember we had those verses describe some persons are acting, but then what is it? Action and non-action, etc. So one is actually offering the fruits of their activities to Krishna. They're renouncing the fruits. They're not entangled in karma by dint of transcendental knowledge. So they're situated in the self. So describes here, I took some notes on this, that one whose mind is unassailable. This is from Ramanuja. one whose mind is unassailable and unapproachable by any type of doubt, as in comparison to the verse we just read. This person is fixed in mind. They're actually unshakable. They have no doubts. Yeah. So they're certain about the existence and the reality of the soul. Yeah. And why? Because they've heard with faith from the Guru. Tasmat Gurum Papajeta Jikna Shri Uttamam. So there's quite a profound a profound experience that happens when a faithful person hears from the Guru. If that person has faith in his teacher, then he can have realization, factual realization of what the teacher is teaching. Like as Krishna explains, we are not the bodies. Yeah? And lots of devotees in the early days when I was hearing from Srila Prabhupada would have that experience as Prabhupada spoke, for instance, about the soul, they would have realizations that they're not the body, because Prabhupada's conviction was so powerful. And devotees had faith in Prabhupada, and they would hear of him with faith. And that in itself would, you could say, Krishna. There's also a verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam that describes by serving great devotees, one becomes attracted to Krishna. So I'm just trying to explain that there is a mystical, transcendental experience if you do have faith in the spiritual master, especially if you have complete faith in the Guru. Then you can make rapid advancement. Yeah, that's why it's required that we do have faith. And it's actually said until you do have a certain level of faith, then you should not take shelter, or you should not accept the spiritual master. Again, back to the point, if you're still at the platform of doubting for doubt's sake, and you do not have faith that the person, the teacher, is actually giving me real knowledge, if you're skeptical, then you need to wait for some time before you may surrender what's called or take initiation. But here, this is the results here. Renouncing the fruits of action. That means they're depending on Krishna for one's subsistence. That's what happens when one actually renounces the fruits of his actions. Yeah, one is depending on Krishna. That one is showing that I am giving this to you, my Lord, knowing that you will maintain me. Of course, we maintain ourselves. That doesn't mean renounce everything, but the fruits of our actions, we give it unto Krishna. Yeah. And those doubts have been destroyed by transcendental knowledge, is situated factually in the self. So again, one who's offered all actions to the Lord is not bound by reaction. Yeah. So Nishkam Karma Yoga gives rise to what does it give rise to? The essence of this chapter, the name of this chapter, by acting, it gives gyan, it gives transcendental knowledge.
By knowledge.
Yeah. And then one is acting on that platform, then one is not bound. So in other words, Arjuna is thinking that if he fights, he's going to be bound. He's going to occur sinful reactions. But Krishna is saying, no. If you're situated in the self and you're not attached to the results, you're doing it under my direction, you're actually not working on the material platform. So there will be no reaction. He says, that's what he's encouraging Arjuna. Actually, if he doesn't work, if he doesn't fight, then there will be a reaction. But here, there will be no reaction. Yeah. Any other comments or questions on this? Relatively short purple. Commentary here describes the paths of karma yoga or prescribe the Vedic actions. Okay, using one's condition, using oneself, using one's proclivities, what one has, and engaging that or linking that yoga, linking that with Krishna, then one attains knowledge. Yeah. Yeah.
I felt Prabhu 40 and
Please.
41. If you read together, it would be easier rather explaining 40 separately and 41 separately, because a lot of the answers are there in 41 for all our doubts.
Yeah, this, as you said, this is how to destroy doubts.
Yeah.
In other words, act in Nishkam Karma Yoga.
Yeah.
Act according, do your duty, but do it for Krishna, and do it with a sense of detachment. Just in other words, Krishna's telling Arjuna, you just act. Don't worry. Masujiha, don't worry about what's going to happen. I'm going to take care of everything. You just act according to my order. Yeah. So just act, and then, yeah, from that will come divine knowledge. Yeah. Yeah. Another commentary here. This knowledge will characterize by direct perception of the Supreme Lord. Yeah. Direct perception of Krishna to one degree. Yeah. And one become conscious that one belongs to Krishna. Yeah. Okay. Hare Krishna. Now, this is the last verse. Wow, big purple. Let's have a go, shall we? Let's have a go, shall we? This
Yes.
last verse. We might
Yes.
not. Mother Kaya, you have your hand there. You can read this last verse of the 4th chapter. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, I'll try. 42, right?
Yes.
Tasmat ajnana sambhutam hritham jnana sinatmana chitvainam samshayam yogam atishto tishta bharatam. Translation. Therefore, the doubts which have arisen in your heart out of ignorance should be slashed by the weapon of knowledge. Armed with yoga, O Bharata, stand and fight.
Yeah. Now, there's a nice explanation here. Prabhupada gives a summary of the whole chapter in this purple. And Bodhidharma Prabhu gives a nice breakdown of this purple, explaining exactly what Prabhupada is referring to. So the first part, so as Mother Gaia is reading, I will point out the actual how Prabhupada is summarizing the verse. So this first part, Prabhupada is speaking about the goal of sacrifice. Okay, so you carry on reading, Mother, and then I'll stop you when the next section is. So this first section is the goal of sacrifice. Okay, go on, carry on.
The yoga system instructed in this chapter is called Sanatana Yoga, or eternal activities performed by the living entity. This yoga has two divisions of sacrificial actions. One is called sacrifice of one's material possessions, and the other is called knowledge of self, which is pure spiritual activity. If sacrifice of one's material possessions is not dovetailed for spiritual realization, then such sacrifice becomes material. But one who performs such sacrifices with a spiritual objective or in devotional service makes a perfect sacrifice.
So that's the
Visualize.
goal of
Yep.
sacrifice, okay? This is the goal of sacrifice. So next is there's two levels of spiritual knowledge. This will be described next. Okay, carry on, Mother.
When we come to spiritual activities, we find that these are also divided into two, namely, understanding of one's own self or one's constitutional position, and the truth regarding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One who follows the path of Bhagavad Gita as it is can very easily understand these two important divisions of spiritual knowledge. For him, there is no difficulty in obtaining perfect knowledge of the self as part and parcel of the Lord. And such understanding is beneficial, for such a person can easily understand the transcendental activities of the Lord. In the beginning of this chapter,
So that was the second part. Just looking here, that was 2 levels of spiritual knowledge that was just explained. Yes. So next is learning of the Lord's transcendental activities. This is next. Carry on. Mom.
in the beginning of this chapter, the transcendental activities of the Lord were discussed by the Supreme Lord himself. One who does not understand the instructions of the Gita is faithless and is to be considered to be misusing the fragmental independence awarded to him by the Lord. In spite of such instructions, one who does not understand the real nature of the Lord as the eternal, blissful, all-knowing personality of Godhead is certainly fool number 1.
Okay, that's the
Ignorance.
next section. Prabhupada often uses that term, fool number 1. Number 1 fool. Okay, so now Prabhupada is going to speak about the goal of sacrifice. So again, he's summarizing this 4th chapter. That's why I thought it would be valuable for us to go over this according to these different sections which are highlighted. So carry on. So now the goal of sacrifice part 2. We had the goal of sacrifice part 1. This is the goal of sacrifice part 2. Carry on.
Ignorance can be removed by gradual acceptance of the principles of Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is awakened by different types of sacrifices to the demigods, sacrifice to Brahman, sacrifice in celibacy, in household life, in controlling the senses, in practicing mystic yoga, in penance, in foregoing material possessions, in studying the Vedas, and in partaking of the social institution called Varnashrama Dharma. All of these are known as sacrifice, and all of them are based on regulated action. But within all these activities, the important factor is self-realization. One who seeks that objective is the real student of Bhagavad Gita, but one who doubts the authority of Krishna falls back.
Yeah, and
One
this
is
is the
therefore
next section. This is the final section, properly learning transcendental knowledge. Okay, carry on. Mother.
One is therefore advised to study Bhagavad Gita or any other scripture under a bona fide spiritual master with service and surrender. A bona fide spiritual master is in the disciplic succession from time eternal, and he does not deviate at all from the instructions of the Supreme Lord as they were imparted millions of years ago to the Sun God, from whom the instructions of Bhagavad Gita have come down to the earthly kingdom. One should therefore follow the path of Bhagavad Gita as it is expressed in the Gita itself, and beware of self-interested people after personal aggrandizement, who deviate others from the actual path. The Lord is definitely the Supreme Person, and his activities are transcendental. One who understands this is a liberated person from the very beginning of his study of Bhagavad Gita. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purport to the 4th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of transcendental knowledge.
Okay, thank you. So I think Prabhupada really nicely in the purple, I think he summarized everything which we discussed today. Very nice. But any final comments or questions on this? Otherwise, we can pause here, and next we can go into chapter 5. Now, just for your interest, the link between this and the next chapter, Arjuna is still confused. So he's heard about transcendental knowledge from Krishna. That was in text 16 and 18 of the 4th chapter. So Krishna is glorifying Gyan. And he spoke, that was it, action and inaction. I was trying to remember those terms, action and inaction. So he spoke of that in text 41. I'm just reading here. Krishna glorified both knowledge and renunciation. So he's glorified knowledge and renunciation. So in text 42, he's again ordered Arjuna to fight. So he's confused Arjuna. Yeah, he's speaking about Gyan and renunciation. Therefore, chapter 5 opens with a question similar to the one Arjuna asked at the beginning of chapter 3. Which is better, work or renunciation of work? Arjuna thinks that Krishna is speaking about different subjects, but Krishna is speaking about one subject. Because Arjuna is saying, which is better, to work or to renounce work? But Krishna wants him to do both. He wants him to work, but be renounced. So that's the discussion in the 5th chapter. So that's called action in Krishna consciousness, karma yoga. So please join us. So next Tuesday, where we shall read chapter 5. Okay. So thank you everyone for joining us. We had a nice discussion today and a lot of preaching tactics there, and how to preach to people who have doubts in the Bhagavad Gita or the divinity of Krishna. Nice discussion. So please join us next week, and Hare Krishna. Hare Bol.
Krishna
Hare
Guru
Krishna.
Maharaj
Hare
ki
Krishna.
jai.
Hare
Hare
Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Hare.
Hare Manande, Hare Bol.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Have
Hare
a
Krishna.
wonderful
Krishna.